time I call to order Planning and Zoning Board meeting, City of Lake City. It's the 11th of February, 2025. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. This time we'll all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be so kind.
Gracious Father, we come before you today, thanking and praising you for another day. We thank you for how we assemble ourselves here together to do business for our members. We ask that you continue to bless, touch each and every one this year tonight. Help us do things decent and in order. In Jesus' name we pray.
You may be seated. Mr. Angelo, roll call of attendees, please.
Ms. McCollum? Ms. Wilson? Ms. Douglas?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Galucci?
Here.
And Mr. Leidy?
Present. Quorum being assembled, we can continue. Electronically, meeting minutes from our previous meeting of 14th of January 2025 were distributed through the city's email server. I trust for all except our newest members, everyone has had the opportunity to read and review those minutes as submitted. This time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes as electronically submitted? Hearing and seeing none at this time, do we have a motion for their adoption?
Second.
Douglas and Carlucci on the second. By hand sign, all in favor? Hands down, likewise opposed. Minutes are adopted. This time, before we move into our order of business, for the benefit of some of our newer members, Mr. Clay, would you care to give a little overview on the rules of the road for some of our newest planning and zoning members?
Certainly. Welcome. I think, Mr. Carlucci, this is your second meeting. Ms. Adams, welcome. This is your first. Just wanted to give you a few little rules of decorum, and then the rest of it you'll just pick up as we go forward through the meetings. Probably the most important thing is when the time comes for you to either ask questions or make comments or argument about one of the matters before you, you should look to the chair to be acknowledged. You can kind of raise your hand, make eye contact. Ms. Adams, you can punch him in the shoulder if you want to get his attention, if that's what it takes. You're close enough. But direct all of that through the chair. So get his attention, let him call on you, and then you can ask the questions once he's given you the floor. You will notice that for the most part, the proceedings in the three boards, the Planning and Zoning Board, the Board of Adjustment, and slightly to a lesser extent in the Historic Planning or Preservation Agency meetings, we use what are called quasi-judicial proceedings. You'll learn about those, but effectively what it means is you're sitting in the capacity not only of a legislative decision maker, but you're also sitting in the capacity of a judge. And in sitting in the capacity of a judge, you are impartially receiving information and facts provided to you under oath through testimony by the city staff, by the applicant, and sometimes by citizens and other interested parties. And you will, in that proceeding, listen to all of that, weigh the evidence, determine which evidence you want to rely on in making your decision, articulate that evidence, and render a ruling, just like a judge would do. You will hear me as we go through the process of the quasi-judicial hearings. You'll hear me ask, have you had any ex parte communications with anyone about the matters before you? Ex parte communications are just communications with anyone that are outside of this hearing room tonight. If you have not done wrong. It's okay. You, in most cases, are able to still continue to sit in your capacity as a member of the board and hear the information. And what I'm going to ask you, if you say, yes, I talked to my neighbor at the grocery store the other day, and they really gave me an earful about this project. They don't want to see it, whatever it is. And I'm going to ask you, does the fact that you heard that information and received that information, does that affect your ability tonight to hear the information officially on the record and to base your decision tonight impartially on the information that you received tonight? And if you say yes, then you can go ahead and participate in the hearing. If you say no, I heard that, I can't disregard it, it's not something I can set aside in my decision making, then we're going to ask that you recuse yourself, and we'll find the appropriate forms for you to fill out through the Florida Commission on Ethics, declaring that you did recuse yourself. And it's, again, not a big deal. The biggest deal is that you just be honest about it when we ask the question. So at some point here in the next little bit, I'm going to say, have any of you had any ex parte communications? I'll just go down the dais, answer yes or no, and if you answer no, no problem. If you answer yes, I'll do the follow-up questions. Beyond that, as I said, welcome aboard, and we're looking forward to your contributions to the process. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's exactly what I was looking for. All right, this time we have no old business appearing before the Planning and Zoning Board. We'll move to new business. This time, would you like to ask about communications, or would you like me to introduce the first agenda item?
Just go ahead and do the first agenda item since we've only got one, and I'll just do it in line with the rest of my comments.
Understood. Tonight we have before us a matter that must be considered and voted upon by the Planning and Zoning Board in a quasi-judicial manner. This item is petition SPR 25-01, being a petition for site plan review accompanied by resolution number 2025 PZSP01, approving an application by VYP LLC, a Florida limited liability company, submitted by its agent, Charles Millar of Atwell LLC, for approval of a site plan for the construction of a Take 5 oil change facility within the corporate limits of City of Lake City, Florida, in a commercial intensive zoning district located upon parcel 02631-000, as regulated by Section 4.13 Land Development Regulations, City of Lake City. And I've been asked City Attorney to run through the procedures to be used in these hearings and to inquire of the members of the Planning and Zoning Board regarding ex parte communications. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I begin, can I ask who in the audience is here tonight to speak on this particular matter regarding the Take 5 oil change application? Just you, okay. Given that, I'll do an abbreviated explanation of the procedures we're going to follow. As you know, Mr. Thomas, I think you've been here with us before. All the testimony is taken under oath. We're going to ask that you enter any documents into the record before you complete your presentation. The staff is going to provide their presentation first, and then the applicant will present theirs. Any party interveners or others that wish to intervene in the matter would present. We'll follow that up by public comment. First those in favor, and then those in opposition first, and then those in favor of the application. Then we're going to allow an opportunity for cross-examination if anybody wants to do it. Then we will, at that point, allow the board members to ask any questions of the applicants and other presenters. Following that, we'll do closing arguments. I'll advise the board as to the applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then the board will deliberate and render a decision. And in this case, the board can vote to either approve with conditions, or deny the application for the site plan approval. All persons have the right through the chairman to ask questions of staff or other speakers, to seek clarification of comments made by staff or other speakers, and respond to comments or presentations. All people presenting written materials, as I mentioned, must make sure that a copy is presented to the clerk and that it is moved into the official record of proceedings. Florida law requires the board's decisions and quasi-judicial actions to be supported by competent, substantial evidence presented to the Planning and Zoning Board during the hearing. Competent, substantial evidence is evidence a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis on the record to support opinion testimony from expert and non-expert witnesses. Let's see. At this time, I need to inquire of each member of the board individually if they've received any ex parte communications regarding this matter tonight, and if so, to disclose them. Ms. Adams? Okay. Ms. Douglas?
No.
Mr. Carlucci?
No.
Ms. McCallum? And Chair Lyott?
Insofar as my role as chair, needing me to talk to the city on the preparation of tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Before you now, members of the board, you have proposed resolution 2025 PZ SP01, which states a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Lake City, Florida, approving that certain site plan submitted by Charles Millar as agent for BYP LLC, a Florida Limited Liability Company, for proposed oil change facility within the corporate limits of the City of Lake City, Florida, making certain findings of fact in support thereof, providing conditions, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing an effective date. At this time, if each person who's going to offer testimony or speak to this application could stand and raise your right hand and take an oath. Do each of you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Mr. Chair, it's yours.
Very nice, thank you. All right, at this time, Mr. Thomas, please give us a brief introduction summary of application SPR 25-01 and its associated proposed resolution 2025 PZSP01.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please, board, I'll just go through the whole presentation. It's brief. So rather than do the introduction and then turn it over to the applicant and back.
You don't want to get called up twice?
Not if I can help it.
All right, I see where we're going.
Okay, so as stated, this is the petition number SPR 25-01. A little bit of background, you've seen this property before recently because it was recently annexed into the city on October 7th of 24. And then after that, the land use and zoning was changed from county categories to city categories, county commercial to city commercial, county commercial intensive zoning to city commercial intensive zoning. Both categories and both sides are substantially similar. So there was not much of a change there. And so now the next step in the development of the parcel is to come back with a site plan for approval. They're proposing to do a Take 5 oil change facility. The existing structure will be removed and demolished, including the aprons and any paving that's on site. There is a double driveway right now in the existing use that'll be removed and it'll be replaced with a single point of ingress and egress. And the plans do provide for connectivity to the parking lot to the sort of southeast, which is the Advance Auto Parts store adjacent to this parcel. As far as staff review, there were no comments from the building department. Planning and zoning did note that you have to connect to city water and sewer, which we'll talk a little bit about that more shortly. But basically, general comments, no specific issues that had to be addressed before moving forward. Same with water and sewer. You know, there is going to be a requirement that they connect to water and sewer, not on US 90 because it's not available on US 90, but to the south on Mary Ethel Road, which is where utilities are actually available. And I'll show you on the map when we get to that. And not really much in the way of a response from outside agency review, other than the Water Management District, which said it will require an ERP, individual permit. So the site location, again, to refamiliarize you with it, is on US 90. So this is the Advance Auto Parts to the south and east, US 90 to the north. So they will require a private easement across this portion of this parcel to reach those utilities that are available on the south on Mary Ethel. Here's a picture of the site plan drawing. And so basically you can see the single point of ingress and egress. The cars will come in, come around. They have 3 bays that they'll be doing the oil changes in, and then right on out and back out 90. And then there is the connectivity to the parking lot to the south. We like interconnectivity between parking lots because it helps to reduce the number of trips out on the state road or the US highway, which eliminates at least a certain amount of traffic going on back out on the road. And so interconnectivity is an important facet of reducing some of those trips. And The last statement is, again, based on the need for this easement. Staff's recommendation is approve, but with the condition that they obtain the private easement for utilities prior to moving forward on the project. And we got this,
You're gonna move your presentation into the record.
I would like to move the presentation to the record. I thought you had some comments for.
I mean, were there any conditions recommended by
The only condition we recommend would be to obtaining the easement
Okay.
prior to moving forward.
All right, thank you. At this time, will a representative of the proponent, the applicant Charles Aguilar, acting as agent for VYP LLC, please approach?
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll hear a presentation from representative for the proponent. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I want to first start off by thanking the board for being here today, and also Robert Angelo. Smooth process through this annexation process. Now we're here in the final stages to receive final site review for this property at 2196 West US Highway 90 in Lake City, Florida. We received some general comments on behalf of the city and addressed the comments, and the site plan that shown earlier has addressed those comments and reflected them. And as Thomas mentioned, there were also some utility comments that were to be addressed on the easement concerns or the utility connections to south of Southwest Marietta Road. We're still working with the neighboring properties and negotiating the easements with the auto parts and the neighboring rear properties to make that connection. Do you want me to reintroduce the project?
If you believe that the testimony that he gave is sufficient to your needs.
Yes, sir.
You pretty much say ditto, but if you have a presentation ready to go, you're dying to
No.
give us, please do.
I'm fine with ditto.
Counselor, fine with ditto?
You can adopt your prior comments from the prior hearing, prior presentation.
Right.
Okay, and then are you moving your application into the record?
Yes, sir.
At this time, Mr. Chair, it would be appropriate for either of the parties. Do you have any questions for each other, cross-examination for each other? No? Okay, and then the chair could move forward with questions from the board if you wish.
All right, having no parties intervener, having no questions or comments amongst, we still call for public comment.
You can call again. I called earlier and nobody was here to speak on it, but call again just to make sure. So
Spirit strikes.
go ahead and call.
By show of hands, do we have anyone in attendance this evening that would like to stand up and speak either for or against the petition as presented by city parties and proponent parties? Hearing and seeing none, public comment on this is now closed. There being no cross-examination amongst the applicants, non-existent party interveners, or the city. Moving forward at this time, this is the section of our procedure where we open up the floor for members of the Planning and Zoning Board to ask questions of either the applicant or of city staff. This time, do we have any questions, comments from members of the board that need to be addressed? Mr. Carlucci?
Before I saw the presentation, I was worried about traffic, because it's a really bad intersection there, really busy, and it's very close to the intersection. Now that I see there's an egress at the back, I'm not so worried about that. Is this 96 trips per weekday? Is that how many cars you expect in and out per day?
Yeah, it's a very low count, 96 seems right about that.
What is that based on?
That's based off a typical like ITE trip generation count. You run an auto service for the auto service use, I think you get around that number, 96 per week.
I just asked because there's one place in town where they're lined up out the road, like all the way, it's really backed up, but as long as the egress and everything with the parking lot, I think it should be okay, so that's all I got.
All right, any additional questions, comments for the proponent or for city staff? All right, hearing and seeing none at this point, we're gonna open it up to final arguments since you're already at the podium. If you have any final arguments you'd like to make insofar as your case or your evidence that you presented this evening?
No, sir.
Very nice, you may be seated. City staff, same question? No final arguments at this time. Over you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The decision of the board should be based only on the evidence provided by sworn witnesses. In addition, the board may make its recommendation to the, actually, you're making a final decision today. After taking into consideration those matters listed in section 13.11.3 of the city's land development regulations. At this time, the board may discuss the application, the testimony, and any findings of fact on which the board wishes to base a decision and vote on the resolution following an appropriate motion and second. Should you wish to adopt the resolution with the conditions requiring the private utilities easement, you may move to adopt resolution number 2025 PZSP01 as presented and read by title only. Because we've got some new folks at your place at the dais, I set down a piece of paper, looks like this, that has the criteria from section 13.11.3 that you would consider in approving or denying or approving with conditions the resolution, which would, in this case, the resolution, if you approve it, would approve the application and the site plan.
All right, at this time, this is the portion of the procedure where we can discuss amongst ourselves anything that we need, questions, clarification, et cetera, on. Any comments from any members of the board, starting at my right, moving to my left? All right, looks pretty clean. That being the case, at this time, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove application SPR 25-01 by resolution as read into the record by Mr. Martin, either with or without the conditions brought up regarding the easement?
Move to approve
Second.
with conditions.
Move to approve with conditions as stated.
Yes, sir.
Very nice, Mr. Carlucci. We have a second from Ms. Mary. This time, Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Yes.
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Ms. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Carlucci,
Yes.
and Mr. Leidig.
Yay. All right, we have unanimous agreement. Resolution as read into the record as it relates to 25-01 has been approved contingent on your utility corridor. Very nice, congratulations. There being no additional new business to come before this board, we now move to the workshop portion of our agenda. Item 1 on our workshop is to nominate a new vice chair for the Planning and Zoning Board. This will be to replace a member who timed out off of this board. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Martin, these are for 2-year terms to be served up to 2 periods consecutively before having to sit out?
The role of chair and vice chair would be, I don't think there's really any guidance in the LDRs.
I'm just talking about in terms of temporal constraints. It's a 2-year term, you
Whether
can be
you have,
nominated or run twice, or is it single year?
for just your seat on the board, you mean?
No, to serve as a chair or a vice chair.
That's what I'm saying, there is no real guidance on it, so I guess once elected chair, you would serve as chair until you resign or the board decides to replace you. We don't really have a rule of procedure on how long you serve in the role of chair that I'm aware of from the LDRs. If it's been a matter of custom that the chair serves 1-year terms or 2-year terms, then we can proceed with custom, and that's something we probably need to address is some official procedure on it, but I'm not aware of anything that's binding.
Mr. Angelo, are you aware of anything that may be binding in that regard?
Yes, there is in the LDR under the administration. It is 2 1-year terms,
2 single year terms?
2 single year, and they can be served consecutively
As chair,
as chair or vice chair.
okay. So once someone serves 2 years, 2 1-year terms, they can no longer serve as chair again, is that the way?
They
Correct.
have to sit out at least 1 year.
They can sit out 1 year and then come back, or
Okay.
sit out another term and then come back in.
All right, thank you. Robert's our guru. So,
That's why I asked both you guys these
Yes.
questions.
yes.
All right, so at this time, I'm about to open the floor for members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Who would like to throw someone under the bus and nominate them to have the hot seat immediately to my right as Vice Chair of the Board? We have a nomination of Ms. Douglas on the floor. Ms. Douglas, do you accept?
Sure, I'll do it.
Ms. Douglas accepts nomination. At this time, do we have any additional nominations for the role of Vice Chair for the Planning and Zoning Board, City of Lake City? Hearing and seeing none, I believe we need to have a motion. Do we move this slate of officers for a calling of the yeas and the nays?
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Ms. Mary with the second. Mr. Angelo, will you call the yeas and the nays for placing Ms. Douglas as the new vice chair for Planning and Zoning Board, City of Lake City?
Ms. McCullum?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Galucci?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidy?
Yay. Congratulations. How's that bus feel? No need to run over here right now. We'll get to our presentation from the engineering firm, but before I gavel in our work adjustment, let's have y'all play musical chairs. All right, at this time, the only other item for workshop consideration is a presentation on the skate park and master plan for the recreational facilities provided at Young's Park. This will be presented by Tecoy Engineering. Please approach.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Committee members and audience. My name is Don Ramdes. I am the Client Services Manager as well as the Florida Business Development Director. We are still Tecoy Engineering. I'm just gonna give you guys, with your permission, a 3-minute intro to our new company's name. It's Tecoy Engineering, a Baxter and Woodman company. So with that, let me just run you through a little bit of history of what happened. Well, so far, James and myself have worked with the city since 1995 in a consultant role. And then our careers take different paths, and then we both met again at Tecoy Engineering. The city of Lake City went out for continuing engineering services contracts 2 years ago, and Tecoy Engineers was one of the selected consulting firms. The city had asked us to look at the recreational park. We're going to use this usage and also the possibility of a skate park. But let me take you a little bit now to how Baxter and Woodman, which is the company that's our parent company, what we're about.
If you had the arrow.
Okay, we do introductions. So in January 1st of this year, we were acquired Tecoy Engineering. We are based in Jacksonville, Florida, and we're acquired by Baxter Woodman. Baxter Woodman's headquarters is out of Illinois. They have 4 offices here in Florida, from Orlando, West Palm Beach, and the 2 that they've acquired through Tecoy. That's it in St. Augustine and Green Cove Springs. With our acquisition, we're up to 450 employees. We're all excited with the acquisition because they really serve municipal clients, cities similar to the city of Lake City. We just get expanded capabilities, things that as a smaller company we weren't able to do, like 3D visualization, a lot more roadway developments, increased possibilities of going after federal grants and so forth. There's just quite a bit of opportunities we have through Baxter and Woodman. They're a transportation, civil engineering, and a surveying company. Please allow me a 3-minute video clip of the company. Thanks. So that's just a briefing on who we are and so forth. So to get direct to why we are here today, I'm gonna hand it over to James, who will talk about the recreational park and the skate park. Thanks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for allowing us to come today. What is this thing?
One more time.
So we started this project back, I think in October or so of this past year. And we originally were brought in to talk with city staff about a skate park located at Young's Park. And as we were talking with them and looking at aerials of the site, we realized that there was quite a bit more property there that could be utilized by the city. And so we, while we mainly looked at the skate park and how that would improve the facility over there, we also wanted to go ahead and start looking at what the vision for the park could be as the city grows and moves into the next, decade or so. And so we provided the scope to the city planners to prepare a master plan looking at all the elements that could be used in the general area there. Some of the scoping elements was to look at the existing facilities and parking access to the area. We incorporated a skate park in as a phased growth. We also looked at ADA issues and investigated other amenities that might be available, giving and funding sources. As you can see, we've got an arrow here of the existing park, and you have quite a few existing facilities that are a good start for a beautiful park that could be incorporated here. You have an excellent municipal stadium that has an existing turf field that is an annual maintenance deal because you have to stripe it for every game that you have out there, and they have to mow the grass and use insecticides to keep the fire ants away and all of that. You have tennis courts, you have basketball courts, you have an existing playground and picnic area with existing restrooms and handball courts all along the south boundary of the property. We were looking at over by the existing locker room area and the existing storm pond, placing a skate park in there. That's where we started, and that's when we realized you have all this other property. So we put together this preliminary visionary plan, if you will, of what the park could be, where we started out with the skate park located in the middle up there on the north of this drawing. We talked about upgrading the existing municipal stadium. Oh, there you go. We talked about upgrading, there's a skate park right there. And we talked about upgrading the municipal stadium and using that or installing artificial turf in that area so that you could mark that to be used for multiple activities like football, soccer, lacrosse, and you can also stripe it to have multiple fields in there for junior sports activities. We also looked at upgrading the playground area here. You've got an excellent start there by adding ADA accessible playground equipment like swings that you could roll a wheelchair onto for swings and other facilities that could be used by people with handicaps. We talked about putting in pickleball courts right in this area. And we talked about whether you could double up on using pickleball courts on the existing tennis facilities. And what we realized there was that the nets were a little bit different, a little different heights, a little different lengths. So it became better to go ahead and build a separate facility for that. We looked at putting in a health track over in this area here that could be marked off in half mile, quarter mile, half mile type increments, and then installing outdoor exercise equipment like pull-up bars, sit-up benches, and like parallel, balance beams and that kind of stuff. So those are what we're talking about. We also looked at upgrading this facility here, which is the old locker room, creating an improved restroom area for the north end of the field. We also realized that you have a piece of parcel property right in here that's a triangular piece that really can't be used for anything because it's too narrow and you really can't develop it. So it's owned by this property right down here, which is, I think, a Christian organization or something. And we recommended that the city look at somehow acquiring that, either through donation or some other means. Let me back up just a second. We also talked about what to do with this parcel right here. We initially thought maybe the skate park could go in there or some kind of walking reflection park area. And we realized that that probably wouldn't be the best use for that facility, so we talked about creating a parking lot, because currently behind the stadium here, the only parking is off-site parking, and it's pulling over onto the shoulder in the grassed area, so there's no paved parking there. So when we looked at all these facilities, we came up with preliminary budgets. And in the write-up, I've got ranges that are fairly wide, because you can make the facility as big or as small as you want. And these were just the numbers that made sense to me as far as how to best plan for these facilities as you move forward. In the skate park, we came up with a range of, I think, between $150,000, $100,000 to $500,000 or so, but we recommend a budget and do it in phases, 2 phases. Then the sources that we came up with for the way we developed our estimates with the range was we used sources from websites from Public Skate Park Development Guide, Peter Hoops, and some others for pickleball courts. And these are some of the other sources that we used to develop the range of estimates that we came up with. To give you an example of the wide range and why it's so large, this is a Veterans Skate Park over in St. Johns County. It's a basic park. It's right around the corner from where I live. And basically it's a flat concrete surface with a fence around it, and they have used pre-manufactured trick ramps, if you will. Like there's a half pipe there, there's a ramp, there's a rail that they ride on. And this is a basic park, and you can budget something in the $100,000 range for something like this. The one on the left, oops, I picked up the wrong thing. The one, dang it, what am I doing? Clearly I don't know what I'm doing with this thing. The one on the right is a more elaborate skate park. This one was built down in Riverside in Jacksonville. It's under I-95 as it goes across the river there. This is an $8 million park, and they have swimming pool bowls, they have big ramps, they have rails, they have stairs, and they've incorporated artwork into it. So they have a big sculpture in the back or at the entrance that says JAX, JAX. So you can see the wide range in what you get based on the amount of money that you allocate towards this, towards a particular project. And here's another example. This is the remote controlled vehicle type tracks. The simple one that I was proposing was a dirt track, the one on the left, with or without the elevated controller stand and bleachers. The one on the right is a much more elaborate track. It has concession stands and parking lots, lots of bleachers, and I believe that one's a paved track. So you can see, you could probably build the one on the right, one on the left for $50,000, or if you wanted to use city staff, maintenance staff to go out there with a couple of bulldozers. You could probably build that for $25,000. And the one on the right, obviously, is gonna be probably a couple $100,000. And so then we talk about potential funding sources. You have potential grants, you have other grants, playground grants. All of these are places where you can fund these types of facilities. And probably the most utilized grants are the potential grants. So I'll turn this over to Don for summary.
So the task that we were given to work with the city on was to look at the existing facility. What are some other type activities that could go on at the park? Look at it from basically improving what's there, looking at possibility of a skate park. And then as the demand or the use of the facility grows, what could it grow into the future? So right now, the focus was basically on what's existing and what other amenities at a very smaller scale could occur there. But looking at it towards a future development as the need arises and so forth. And basically it's purely a conceptual planning task that we were provided to, that we were requested to perform for the city. With that, are there any questions?
No question. So far, has this been scoped to the city council or to public potential user groups, or is this sort of your first stop?
This is our first stop. We, the assistant city manager, Mr. Johnson, had asked us to submit it for review first, to get everyone to understand it before proceeding upward with the study presentation.
Right. I saw in your company presentation, you have a natural and cultural sciences division with the new parent company that acquired Decoy. Would you mind sliding back to presentation slide number 11? In addition to design, given the fact that we see both state entities and national entities as possible funding partners, which theoretically could trigger certain cultural resource and natural resource laws requiring study surveys. In addition to the consulting work you're doing putting this together, you guys qualified and mobilized if, for example, accepting a National Recreation and Park Association grant, if that triggers Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, or if you accept a state of Florida grant as indicated on there and it requires additional potential threatened and endangered species surveys, et cetera. Are you guys geared to do that? Just nuts.
Yes, we are.
And would you anticipate the fact that this has been such a large open space in the community for so long and hasn't been heavily settled, we anticipate probably having to do biological and cultural resource surveys prior to ground disturbing implementation?
I don't think so, not for recreational use. This is not a commercial site. Basically, we're just improving what's there currently. We're not building from a fresh start. So basically with that, it doesn't trigger all of those requirements that are usually triggered mostly by federal grants. On the state grant side, I think we're meeting just the minimum improvements that are required.
Okay, so you don't anticipate this triggering 276?
I don't, not that I can see at the present time.
That's all I had at the present time. Are there any other members of the board that would like to address the presenters? Carlucci.
I had opinions about some of the stuff you guys had in here. I was doing some research. One, we already have an RC, an RC track here in town.
Okay.
At the Southside Sports Complex that, from my experience, doesn't get used very much anyway.
Okay.
So I don't really think that would be a thing that we would need. The main thing for me was the artificial turf. I'm a sports guy, so I know all about injuries and stuff. I actually looked up the numbers, and when you compare artificial turf to natural grass, non-contact injuries, so without being hit, just running, 30% higher, 28% higher for turf than it is for grass. So it's more dangerous for the kids. It also gets very hot, and it also holds bacteria and infections, and it's expensive. So I just think, I know it's easier and less maintenance with having the lines on the field and everything. I get that, but I don't know if that outweighs the cons of having artificial turf.
No, again, it was just a conceptual plan and what could go on. In the detailed design, we would look at different maintenance side of, what's being proposed and everything else. And those are from some very good considerations as to why you look at natural sodding versus, the incidents with artificial turf.
How many jobs would this bring? How many, how many days a week would it be open, or evenings or afternoon? Or is it just like the traditional type of park?
I think it'll be traditional, but that would be up to really your city management, city staff to dictate, the times of operation and so forth.
Presently, Young's Park is set up with signage for signs.
Okay, so this is.
Any additional questions or comments from members of the board? Back up. Do we know when or if we anticipate farming this out for a public scoping meeting, or is this just gonna move through this board and the council?
Oh, thank you, Chair, for having me.
This
I
is
saw you
just-
hiding in the back. I'm gonna bring you down. Regularly, we go and do these projects. I'm just trying to make sure we include all the boards involved. You'll see us come with a lot of plans up here to introduce to y'all as far as historic preservation. Once we start getting our historical district, I would definitely want to lean on y'all to give me some expertise. The point of this meeting was I just wanted to get it out there, get y'all's thoughts on it. Nothing has been finalized. We will be reaching out to some more in the community, get with the youth, maybe some of the organizations down here. I don't skate, so I can't tell you what's a good skate park. As far as the issue with the turf, I have read that as well, but this is just preliminary and it's just for feedback. But it will be another workshop in the future to get the community in and kind of get some of their feedback as well.
Do we anticipate going out into the communities for this, or would it be centralized public scoping and comment sort of meeting?
I'm more of a let's switch it up every now and then type to try to get different crowds in. We might hold something here, we might go out and speak to the Kiwanis or, speak to the Rotary clubs, youth facilities. We're gonna reach out to everybody we can possibly reach.
Excellent. Now that I've brought it up here.
Thank you, you got me. First time speaking at a planning zone. I'd like to thank all y'all for what you do, volunteering your time. This is one of the most important boards that the city has. And I just want to thank y'all for your volunteer work.
Very nice, thank you.
All right.
Do we have,
That close.
do we have any, do we have any plans to upgrade the existing restroom facilities over closer to the playground?
The ones that are actually in Young's Park?
Yeah, it seems like it's been a while since I've been to the playground,
Me too.
but it seems like they were in pretty rough shape.
Yes, ma'am, we do have plans of bringing those things up a little bit more. Times have changed. I do see some upgrades coming to that park holistically. Everything needs to be upgraded. My point, we'll upgrade every piece of equipment in there. All right?
Thank you.
Not all of it, my daughter likes some of it.
Which one, seesaw or?
Yeah.
All right, thank you,
Point
Chair.
taken. All right, before we conclude this presentation, is there anyone in attendance this evening from the public gallery that would like to go on record with a comment regarding the presentation we have just heard? Please approach. Name and address for Mr. Angelo.
Stephen Layton, Layton, 310 Southeast McRae, Monroe Street, Lake City, Florida. Okay. Is this gonna be a completely free facility, or are there gonna be charges to use it?
It's a public facility, it would be open just like Young's Park.
Okay, that's all.
All All right, hearing and seeing no additional comments, at this time, do we have a motion to adjourn our planning and zoning board meeting for the evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mary and Mr. Carlucci on the second, by hand sign, all in favor? All right, hands down, likewise opposed. Nice, planning and zoning is now out, we have board of adjustment coming up next.
He's not gonna have to talk. All the talk, yeah.
This time I call to order, Board of Adjustment, City of Lake City, date shall remain the same. We did have one additional member of our board arrive. Mr. Angelo, would you be so kind as to call a new roll call for Board of Adjustment?
We can keep it separate.
Ms. McCollum?
Right here, here, because they're two different.
Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Douglas?
We can keep this like here.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Adams? And Mr. Carlucci? And Mr. Lydic?
Present.
Thank y'all, sir, to do that.
All right, our sign is now changed. Electronically, we've had distributed amongst us the meeting minutes from our previous meeting, the 14th of January 2025, via the city's email server. I trust everyone that currently had access to city electronic equipment has had the chance to read and review those. At this time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the meeting minutes of the previous session as submitted? Hearing and seeing none, do we have a motion for their adoption?
Second.
Douglas and Carlucci on the second, by hand sign, all in favor? Hands down, likewise opposed? Minutes are adopted. This time we have no old business to come before this board, we have no new business to come before this board. Moving to workshop, the only item of business that we have is to nominate and elect a new vice chair for the Board of Adjustment. Similar to what we did last time, at this time I will open the floor for nominations for vice chair to the Board of Adjustment. This will be for a one-year term, which can be repeated up to 2 consecutive terms prior to having to sit out for a round. Do we have nominations for a vice chair?
Makes sense, second.
All right. We have a nomination for Ms. Douglas. Do you accept?
Yes.
Very nice. Are there any other nominations on the floor at this time? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the slate of our one single nominee to be our new vice chair for the Board of Adjustment?
Motion to accept.
Carlucci and Ms. Wilson
Yes.
on the second. Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Carlucci?
Yes.
And Mr. Lydic?
Yay. All right, bus number 2 has come by. We gonna make it 3 for 3? Does anyone else have anything they would like to add to the workshop portion of tonight's Board of Adjustment meeting before I call for a motion to gavel us out of session? Hearing and seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mary and our new vice chair. By hand sign, all in favor? Aye. Hands down, likewise opposed? Board of Adjustment stands adjourned. Moving to the third set of hats we wear this evening. I now call to order Historic Preservation Agency, City of Lake City, date and roll call shall remain the same. Electronic meeting minutes were distributed from our January 14th, 2025 meeting via the city's electronic email server. I trust everyone had ample time that had access to city IT equipment to review those for their accuracy. At this time, do we have any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes as submitted? Hearing and seeing none, do we have a motion for their adoption?
Motion to adopt.
Ms. Wilson and Ms. McCollum with the second. By hand sign? Hands down, likewise opposed. We have meeting minutes. All right, there's no old business to come before this board. However, at this time, Mr. Angelo, I understand that city staff moved a item from our new business agenda to our consent agenda. Would you like to brief the board on the differences in what they're seeing in hard copy and what we'll be hearing this evening?
Yeah, so item number 4, which is COA 25-04, that we're requesting that be moved to the consent agenda, and I'll present it at the consent agenda.
All right, very nice. Are there any objections amongst the board from moving that to the consent agenda? Counselor, any objections?
No objection.
Very nice. All right, let's get to new business. First item, petition COA 25-02 as submitted by Clark Briggs, acting as agent for Gregory Kolb, owner, requesting a certificate of appropriateness in a residential office zoning district as established in section 4.10 of land development regulations and located within the Lake Isabella National Historic District, as established in section 10.11.2 of the land development regulations City of Lake City on property described as City of Lake City parcel 1276500, colloquially located at 227 Southwest Columbia Ave. At this time, Mr. Angelo, will you provide a short summary and overview of the petition as submitted?
Yes, this is for COA 25-02. Mr. Martin, would you like to swear me in with a?
You swear the information you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
All right, so as I said, this is for COA 25-02, which is located at 227 Southwest Columbia Ave. They are looking to replace a roof that is on this. It is old metal tile shingle roof that is up there. It was damaged back during the hurricanes. As you'll see in the packet, there was some extensive damage to the roof, and along with some of the pictures of the interior. That way you can see the underneath of it too, and some of the damage that it caused also. And that is it.
All right, very nice. You may be seated. This time will the proponent, Mr. Briggs, acting as agent for owner, please approach.
I am not Mr. Briggs, I am one of his employees.
We'll get to that. Please raise your right,
Oh, yes, sir.
right hand and listen to this man right here.
You swear the information you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Very nice. Name and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Steve Stanley, 219 Southwest Churchill, that's in Lake City.
All right, this time you may give your presentation, present any case material or evidence you'd like entered into these proceedings.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm woefully unprepared for this. I did not realize what I was
Come on,
getting
fake it till you make it.
Yeah, so I was preparing you, that's all. So back in January, I went to a customer's house, just said he needed a re-roof done. I didn't have any problem with it, got up there, checked it out. It is old metal tile, it is a 100-year-old tile. I cannot find anything on the market that is even similar to it. All the metal tiles that are on the market now are to kind of simulate what architectural shingles would look like. So I can't even find anything that is a decorative metal rectangular type tile on it. The paint has been falling off, it is rusted all over, and then there's missing shingles, exposed wood decking. We're just wanting to get a new roof on it for this old man, so he doesn't have to worry about his ceilings caving in or any other water damage that might occur.
All right, any additional evidence or material you'd like to?
I mean, I just have the pictures on my phone. I sent them to Mr. Robert. I don't know, do you have any of that?
Should be in the packet.
Yeah, there's extensive photographs in the packet. One thing I'm not seeing, Mr. Angelo, maybe you can tell me what slide I'm skipping over. Do we have a example of the proposed product to be used in lieu of these tiles?
I do not have a copy of the sample in there, and but it is onyx black architectural shingles.
And you were the individual that came out and did the original estimate and took some of these photos that are in the packets?
Correct, yes, sir.
Are you sure they were 100-year-old tiles?
I'm just going off what Mr. Angelo had said, I'm not sure.
Typically, in a construction like this, you wouldn't see a full planked roof with these particular tiles put on like this. Typically, you would see an open purlin-based system. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think these tiles are original.
This is, permission to speak, this is my area of expertise. I run a roofing company. No, you wouldn't put tiles, metal shingles like this over purlins. The purlins you would do just along panels. With these, they go right on top of the decking as far as decking, underlayment, then the metal tiles. He is correct that you can't really find them anymore. I just had a customer recently.
My house is covered in them.
Yeah, I had a customer recently that had the same issue. My issue is taking metal off and putting shingles, asphalt shingles.
So we'll get to that during comments amongst members of the board.
Sorry.
But the only reason I asked the question is I have these on my structure and they're on the purlins. You can actually kind of look out from underneath the stacked tiles and see sunlight everywhere in my attic. It's very surreal. This is the first time I've ever seen this in a historic application where it's been put on planks. So I was wondering if there may have been evidence that this might have been perhaps a wooden shingle earlier that they then replaced.
That's
metal
possible,
shingles
but
incorrectly.
sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, I wouldn't know anything for sure until we were actually taking the shingles off. I didn't really walk on that roof too much just because it was old, and when I went out there that morning, it was wet. So standing on a metal roof, I'm not gonna do that early in the morning when it's wet. So I took aerial photos of it with my drone and have pictures of everything from there.
Anything else you'd like to add into the evidence?
No, sir. We are gonna put on the Owens Corning duration shingles. It's a 50-year architectural shingle with 130-mile-an-hour wind rating, and we do back that with a lifetime product warranty and limited lifetime product warranty and a 10-year workmanship warranty. So if he does have any issues in the next 10 years, we can come back out and fix it for free. So.
And the city does have a copy of this material on file.
No, I'm sure I do. I know he sent it, but I don't know why it's not in the packet.
Well, as long as the application was complete,
Yes.
we've been burned on that a couple times before. All right, you may be seated, but you'll probably get called back up.
Yes, thank you.
All right, at this time, is there anyone here that would like to speak either as a party intervener or as a interested member of the public to speak either for or against petition COA 25-02 as introduced by city and as presented by Agent Abona? Hearing and seeing none, public comment at this time is over. Applicable parties, city, applicant, and desire to cross-examine one another? Very nice. At this point, we are going to open it back up. Members of the board, do you have any questions or requests for additional information from either city departments or from Agent Bowman? Ms. Douglas, you're recognized.
Why are we replacing a metal roof with shingle? Why not replace it with metal?
The cost, ma'am. Metal roofs are typically, 80% more than.
Right, I understand, yeah, I get it. I just wondered if that was the major factor.
It is. The house right next door appears from the outside to be the same style house, and it has architectural shingles on it already.
Mr. Carlos, do you want to be recognized?
Yeah, sorry, please. From my experience, it's definitely not 80% difference in metal and shingles. you can get a basic 29 gal metal roof for about the same price as shingles, architectural shingles. We do it all the time. I don't think cost is an issue, because like I said, I do this and it's very, very similar. In fact, sometimes metal can even be a little cheaper depending on the situation, but it's very similar. It's not a big difference. And I think, again, we shouldn't take a metal off. It's supposed to be the closest to the original if we can get, and the original it was metal. So I don't wanna, maybe if it already had asphalt shingles, you take them off, put shingles on, that's fine, but I don't want to be taking metal off to put asphalt shingles on. I know what they look like. They do look nicer. The architectural shingles are not flat like 3 tabs, but they're still not historically accurate.
I also have a question. In the preparation of this petition to come before the Historic Preservation Authority, did you have the opportunity to review the city's design guidelines for operating in the city's 2 historic districts or on individually listed properties on the National Register of Historic Places?
No, sir.
Aside from the land development regulations which govern everything that takes place up here at this rostrum, in land development regulations, Article 10, Decimal 11, Decimal 2, Decimal 2, the United States Department of the Interior, Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings are the design guidelines we use. I think I'm going to key off of what Mr. Carlucci said a little bit. It's a list of recommended versus non-recommended treatments. Certainly one of those not recommended treatments is to take off a historic product and replace it. I can understand like in kind is not going to be possible due to this particular shingle being virtually unavailable. But at least in like in kind as far as material quality would go, I think that's what Mr. Carlucci is getting at when he says within the framework of the historic district, it probably would not be an appropriate treatment by the city's LDRs and the design guidelines, which they reference by volume, to replace metal with architectural shingle. Does that make sense?
I guess so.
Yeah, we'll see how the board votes. I'm just saying,
Yes, sir.
my interpretation was that your firm had not looked at these guidelines and that subdivision had proven correct. When applying for a COA, it's usually not very favorable if you haven't looked at the governing design guidelines that would lead us and the substantial quantity of the evidence to decide if the COA should be issued or not. Again, I can't speak for the rest of the board. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to this?
So if pricing, like he says, is the same, would you be considering to just replace it, metal for metal?
Our pricing for shingles is $425 a square, and pricing for metal, exposed fastener, which is what you see on most homes around here, is about $650 a square. The smaller the roof, obviously the smaller the margins are, so, I did this one pretty much straight at, $425 a square, and then we're doing peel and stick underlayment underneath that for them, so about $25 a square for that. So about $450 a square is all I'm charging to do this roof on his home. If we were to switch over to just standard 5-rib metal, it's gonna be about $650 a square, so it's gonna be considerably more.
Would it have to be the same size metal? Just asking. Because if the metal sheets were larger, that means you would have to use less of the metal platelets, right? So do you think that will help kind of like balance out the budget for that? Just a little question.
Yes, ma'am. I don't really know how to respond to that. So we're putting a completely different style of metal up there if we go to metal. So it'll be large panels, as long as the roof rake is. The ones that are up there now are the size, probably, 12 inches wide, 16.
The same size.
He would be talking about putting the entire panel sheet, right? While it would not be like in kind to the style, it would be like in kind to the material and would be an acceptable alternative.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like what I was asking.
Right, and looking at the houses that are next to it, like the one on the right-hand side, if you're looking at the home from the street, is architectural shingles already. The one to the left is exposed fastener metal, like what I guess he was talking about. So, I mean, there are different materials that we can do. Currently on the market, there's nothing that is even close to what is on there now.
All right, anything else for agent development? All right, next seated. Representatives of city, proponent, any final arguments?
No, sir, I will add that, right in that district, and around there are, homes out there that do have architectural, and there's a lot of homes that have, ultra rip, so both roofs are, present in the district.
That's not what surprises me so much, it's the fact that someone prepared a COA without even looking at the COA guidelines for design, that we can move through. At this time, do we have any discussion amongst members of the board? Vice Chair?
I'm inclined to think that this is, I understand that the material is not available. I'm inclined to think this is not, it's not an appropriate act within an historic district to replace one material with material. Just my opinion.
All right. Mr. Carlucci?
I feel the same.
I will repeat that I do not believe, based on the tenets of Article 10.11.2.2, I don't believe that the Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines for the rehabilitation of historic properties were consulted or taken into consideration. That is the named design guideline after the LDRs that we have to adhere to. Any other discussion amongst members of the board? At this time, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove the issuance of COA 25-02?
Motion to disapprove.
Second.
Would you like to state grounds?
Both the materials inaccurate historically, and as you stated, Mr. Chair, the proper materials were not consulted before preparing the COA.
All right, we have a motion to disapprove. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Carlucci. We have a motion to disapprove COA 25-02 for the reasons so stated. Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Carlucci?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidig?
Yes. Unanimously, it has been voted to disapprove the COA for petition COA 25-02. Moving to the next item on our agenda, petition COA 25-03, submitted by Lewis Walker, acting as agent for Joseph Wedd, owner, requesting a certificate of appropriateness in a residential single-family 3 zoning district, as established in section 4.5 of the Land Development Regulations and located within the Lake Isabella National Historic District, as established in section 10.11.2 of the Land Development Regulations on property described as City of Lake City Parcel 13249-000, colloquially located at 299 Southeast St. John Street. This time we have Mr. Angelo present to give us a presentation on behalf of city staff.
so this is COA 25-03. It's for 299 Southeast St. John Street. And they are looking to replace the roof on this structure. They're looking to take off the existing shingles and some metal that's on there and replace it with the Galvalume Ultra Rib material.
And just so we're clear on this one, this was a property that we've seen before where they tried to do a partial re-roof on it, isn't it? Or is this across the street from that one?
I think it's across the street.
The one where they had to come to us 2 or 3 times?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, anything else the board should know?
That's it.
Very nice, you may be seated. This time, do we have a representative from Lewis Walker to act as agent on behalf of Joseph Webb? Nice, please raise your right hand. Pay attention to the barrister.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, speak up, I hear you.
Okay. I said, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, and I have them too, so I get it, so.
Gary Garashi, RLSHY, 162 Southwest Curious Court, Lake City, 32024. First, I apologize. The last time I was before this board was during COVID, and all I do is hold up a piece of the metal to the TV, and you all saw it. And I did not bring a piece of the roof with me tonight, and I apologize for that.
In your packet, you have a photograph of the proposed material.
Okay. Yeah, whenever we go into the historical districts or even the adjacent historical districts, if we can't repair the existing metal that's there, and in this case, this is one of those, because between the damage, the rust and everything else, it's got to come off. We try and go back with a metal roof that will at least be the same color. Sometimes we've done green, sometimes we've done yellow, depends on what's existing and what the neighboring houses are like. And in this case, we're using Galvalume, which is a metal stain with a metal color, and using the low rib. So because what's on there is the metal shingles. Well, we can get those, but I think, as the chairman knows, they're handmade anymore. So anyway, we're going back with a galvanized metal roof. We're going over, taking off the existing metal, making any repairs, obviously, in the wood that need to be made there, and then going with a high temperature synthetic underlayment, which is what code requires under a metal roof now, and then just going right back over with that metal roof. There's no purlins, it'll look just, other than different visual pattern, it'll look just like a metal roof was back in the day. So that's what we're proposing.
And the photograph I'm seeing on my terminal here, the existing roof that's on that one, that is a metallic colored silver, kind of like the.
Yeah.
Well, kind of white, I didn't know if that was the sunshine.
Yeah, no, it wasn't painted. We thought at first it had been a painted, but it wasn't. It was just discolored from over the years, but it was just metal.
All right, so similar color, similar material, different actual product. At this time, you may be seated. Do we have anyone in attendance that would like to speak either as a party intervener or as an interested member of the public, either for or against the presentation given by Lewis Walker Roofing for presentation or for petition COA 25-03? Hearing and seeing none, at this time public comment is closed. At this time, do either the city or the representative or the proponent wish to cross-examine one another? Nice. All right, at this time, I'm going to open the floor up for members of the Planning and Zoning Board to ask questions of either city departments or the agent for the proponent on this petition. At this time, do we have any questions or comments? Mr. Barlucci?
Why are you not putting purlins on the roof?
I'm sorry?
Why are you not putting purlins on the roof?
The purlins are not required by code, and with the older houses, the design doesn't need them. And so by putting the high temperature synthetic underlayment over the repaired wood, we can go then directly to the wood. And, go ahead.
Well, I know you can, but I've been doing roofing for a long time. I've never put metal down on a roof without purlins before for many reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Because it helps support the weight of the roof by putting it on the framing, helps tie the rafters together, stuff like that. I just don't,
Well,
I've never seen.
I don't argue about that, but I mean, purlins, the biggest reason purlins got started years ago was because they were putting metal over shingle roofs. They weren't taking the shingles off. And what would happen is the metal over time would wear on those shingles, and it would actually wear through the metal.
Chemical reaction too.
Yeah,
With the
and
metal.
so that's why we started, now that we don't double roof any roof anymore, ever, and so, but the only time that we still do purlins is maybe on mobile homes, where we're gonna, even if you take shingles off, and part of the reason is for what you're talking about, a little more strength. But otherwise, new construction, we don't use purlins, and in your stick-built houses, very, I won't say rarely, but probably half the time we don't use purlins.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments from members of the board for other city departments or for the agent on behalf of the public? All right, hearing none. At this time, would either Lewis Walker Roofing or City of Lake City like to make a final argument?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. Okay, so now we come to discussion amongst members of the board. This is where we have the opportunity to speak with one another. Can we feel a little better about this?
Since we're replacing metal with metal.
We're gonna find it very, very, very difficult moving forward ever to do true like and kind, but at least trying to match as many of the 7 criteria as possible, most notably material. We may not be able to get workmanship and appearance, but matching material at least is a critical aspect of the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines and standards for historic preservation. Anyone else have anything they would like to put on the record before we potentially call this to a vote?
This is just around the corner from my house, and at least 3 of the 4 or 5 houses around this house have, galvan type.
Have gone metal?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no additional comments from members of the Historic Preservation Board, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove petition COA 25-03 as presented by Agent of Honor?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry.
All right, Ms. Carlucci on the motion and that would be Ms. Wilson on the second. Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Galucci,
Yes.
and Mr. Leidy.
Yay. All right, congratulations, unanimously voted upon. The issuance of COA 25-03. All right, I remind all members of the board that petition COA 25-04 was moved without objection to the consent agenda. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Angelo to describe the 2 objects in our consent agenda this evening and call for a vote to ratify them.
Alright, so the first one is COA 25-01 for 175 Northwest Washington Street. And this is this is the Dive Right building. So they are looking to replace the existing roof with a Duralast roof, and this roof cannot be seen from the road as the wall extends up past the roofing material. So you will not see this roof at all. That's why we decided to go with a consent agenda on this one.
All right. And the next item?
Next one is for COA 25-04 for 297 North Marion Ave. This is more commonly known as the, one of the restaurants downtown, Frankie's Place. And so their new owner, which is Our Place out of Brantford. And they're looking to rehab the building, and then they're gonna paint the exterior, and then they're gonna put a new sign up. The paints are gonna stay consistent kind of with what's already in the district. You'll see those in the packet. And so we felt like those could be reviewed on the consent agenda. And on the side of Frankie's, if you look at the red that's on the side of Frankie's right now on their sign, it's the same red that they're using in the color of the new striping that's on the exterior of the building. And the sign is gonna be a traditional kind of looking sign that you would already see in the district, and you see a lot of, it's gonna be similar to the Frankie sign, just of course the lettering's gonna change, and that's gonna look pretty consistent to what it is.
It's a little cut off here on the color. It says painting the exterior, base color will be cream and the accents will be red. And it looks like there's another word, but it's cut off.
It's supposed to be green's the other color.
Red and green. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yeah.
All right, while I have you up there, for the benefit of some of our newer members, can you explain how something gets moved to the consent agenda and only gets ratified as opposed to having a hearing and being voted upon?
Yeah, so in the LDR in section 10, or in article 10, you'll see there's, you've got maintenance work, you've got minor work, and then you've got major work. And so each one of those categories has a list of criteria of why they would be put on there. So, for instance, if somebody was taking a existing metal roof like Galvalume off, putting Galvalume back on, that would be a consent agenda because they're removing the same product, or replacing with the same exact product. And, or if you're repainting, to similar colors that are already in the district, or, it's not gonna be contrary to what's already in the district, those can be on the consent agenda. Or if it's a type of item that is not gonna be seen from the existing road, so the neighboring properties or anybody walking along the roadway is not gonna be, see the update, those would be considered a consent agenda item. Otherwise, if the LDR administrator, which is Mr. Young, if he doesn't feel comfortable with what he's reviewing as being on the consent agenda, then he would advise it to go to the council to be heard.
That makes sense. Generally, a consent agenda item has already had its approval issued. This is the Department of Growth Management's opportunity to come to us and say, because it didn't meet the level of, a major project requiring your review, we provisionally issued the COA. We're on the consent agenda, we're now telling you what we issued. And then administratively, we go through a process called ratification, whereby after he's presented all of these to us, we take one single vote to ratify the entire consent agenda, thus ratifying their decisions, making it legal, and then we move forward. Clear as mud? All right, you may be seated. Any comment from members of the board regarding anything on the consent agenda? All right, do we have a motion to ratify the decisions of the Department of Growth Management regarding consent agenda items? Ms. Wilson?
Second.
And Ms. Douglas on the second. Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays for ratification.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Galucci?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidig?
Yes. All right, consent agenda is ratified. All right, it's that time again, folks. We are finished with our new business and are moving to our workshop. We have the pleasure of getting to nominate and elect a new vice chair for the upcoming term. I remind you, this is for a one-year position that can be repeated up to twice before needing to stand down. At this time, does anyone wish to throw Miss Brenda under the bus for the third time?
I do.
Miss Mary does. Does anyone wish to second that bus throwing?
Second.
Ms.
She
Carter?
seems very passionate about the historic. I appreciate that.
All right, Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Galucci?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidig?
Yay. All right, congratulations. All three boards now have a vice chair.
Now you gotta tell me what I need to do.
All right, having passed through our regular order of business, if there's nothing else anyone would like to bring up under workshop. Looking around, everyone's last chance. Counselor, city, IT, members, vice chair. All right, we have a motion to adjourn and head home for the evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
McCollum, Ms. Wilson on the second by hand sign, all in favor of adjournment? Hands down, likewise opposed. We are out of here.